Okay, סימן Kuf Tzadik Zayin. We're discussing the end of Kuf Tzadik Zayin. The whole Kuf Tzadik Zayin is only 5 sifim, but we discussed the first 2 last year. We're going to discuss the next 3 sifim this year. And we're going to give an introduction to Kuf Tzadik Ches, which is a very Yesodistic סימן, one of the 5 most Yesodistic Simanim in the whole year that you learned. Well, Kuf Tzadik Ches you will be learning, or you already learned, but it's important. Gimel Daled Hey talks about toveling during daytime. Shulchan Aruch begins by saying you're not allowed to tovel on the 7th day. What's the reason for it? Doesn't say in Shulchan Aruch, but it says in the Neisei Kelim. Because maybe if she tovels on the 7th in the day early, she'll be with her husband, she'll see blood. Maybe she's not going to see with her husband, she'll be soiser her tevilah. Masha'enkein, once she tovels at night, she's clear to go. Why can't she tovel on the 8th day? It says even on the 8th day she's asura litbel bayom mishum srach bito mitzad chinuch. Simply, essentially, srach bito is chinuch. Not exactly chinuch, but a daughter will see what her mother is doing, and she will see that her mother is going to mikveh daytime. She's not going to know that it's the 8th day. She's going to think, go to mikveh on the 7th day. And it's a problem, so therefore, however, the 8th day is definitely a derabanan. Mashenk in the 7th day, you go into a shaila if she's really a deraisa. Deraisa you can tovel in the day, but if she's soiser tefillah, it becomes a shaila. But it's also only exera miderabanan. Now, because the 8th day is only mishum srach bita, so there's a whole discussion. And Paiskim come across it. Does a kala who doesn't have a bita, which at least in the times of the Shulchan Aruch, that's how it was. Today it's already not nishtaz a pashut that the kala doesn't have a bita, but at least then that's how it was. Then you don't, does she have to,
You never go in the second marathon.
Yeah. Okay, but it was less common. Then does she have to, could she go to mikveh on the day? Also 7th day. There's a whole discussion, could a kala go to the mikveh on the 7th day, because anyways, she's not going to be with her chas until the night. But then there's a whole discussion, no, maybe they make the chuppah earlier, she will be with her chas before the night, so therefore it is accepted that no tevilah during daytime, not for 7th and not for 8th. Not even that, even when a woman is toveling only mitzat safek, that she had a safek, that she went her tevilah, she went to mikveh the night before and something happened. For whatever reason, there was a chashash, a suffix on her tevilah, if her tevilah was good or not. Maybe there was a chatzitza or something, which you're going to learn later, and she had to go to mikveh again. Again, she does not go during daytime, she goes during nighttime. Now, there is the shach over there says that b'di'evet it's muter, shari, if she went, she's fine. The Chadrei Deya explains, the Chadrei Deya is one of the ones in the back of Shulchan Aruch, explains that b'di'evet means even if there was tashmish, and everybody asks that tzarich yun gadol, how can such a thing, but azay zokter. Now, there's an interesting bach which says the same reason for srach bita, that you can't tovel during the day, you can't even leave the house during daytime to go to mikveh. There's a Kneh Boisum from Rav Bransdorfer, was the Rav Nehida Charedis. He explains common sense, where obviously, and he brings Mekaydes for it, obviously we're not talking about a woman who goes and does the chfife and the preparations in the mikveh, because then she's going to be home 2 hours later, after it says. We're obviously talking about the woman the only scenarios possible is in Friday night. And even then he says if the mikveh is far from the house, as long as she arrives in the mikveh by nighttime, it's fine. She doesn't have to leave her house after nighttime if it's a far walk. But he says if she's preparing herself in mikveh, she could go even earlier. And he brings it from the Chochmas Adam. Now, comes to If Dalet. If there is a oinus, the woman is scared because of whatever reason. The what? She could go earlier. But how many hours earlier? Shalosh time, okay? So when does it apply not to? I'm saying the only realistic scenario today is Friday night. It's the only time that the woman is not going to do preparations. Usually women today do all the preparations in mikveh, they don't do it at home. Huh?
They're covered, people did it home.
And COVID people did it
A
home.
couple teachers said that for Friday night, if you just leave one plot out, maybe it's fine for stuff. He said something.
To do what? Friday nights?
For Friday night, so it's not a problem for stuff quickly. Maybe something like that.
Okay.
Or if you leave somewhat to candlelight.
So yeah, then it's already it's already close tonight. So now, Sif Dal, if she's scared to go at night, either Machmas Tzina, which today is not relevant anymore, came out because nobody's toiveling in cold mikvahs, or Machmas Tzina if it's really cold at night, or Pachad Ganovim, which is more common in other places, not in Crown Heights, but in other neighborhoods. It might be more common. In other countries, it's definitely more common. Or Soigrim Shari Yoir. That was very common during Corona curfews in other countries where there were shilas of such shilas when they came. That people mikveh they closed or during revolutions. I remember those days when curfew was at 4 o'clock or at 6 o'clock in Venezuela. So that was also that you have Soigrim Shari Yoir. If you go to mikveh, you're not going to come back home that day. You end up in jail. So that's that. The Shulchan Aruch says Tilbil b'Shmini, Toivel on the 8th day, Boid Yoim. But definitely not b'Yom HaShvi, even if there is oinus. The Avodas HaGershuni points out to you that what's considered could be Lomer Zogan, that if the oinus is only one night. What's going to happen if you know that curfew is going to be cancelled 2 days later? Yeah, curfews, they already announced like that curfew is only for these. In 2 days they're going to move it up to 8 p.m. It's not going to be anymore 6 p.m. So you can go to mikveh after tzes. We still don't push off if she's able. We're not going to say wait till the 9th night and then go to mikveh. No, she could still go 8th day during daytime. But on the 7th day, like we said, even b'shas, even oinus, you can't toivel. So we're going to see exception. And even if that's going to cause that she's not going to be able to go to mikveh till the 9th night, if the only alternative is 7th by day, then you don't go. However, there is a Siddur Tahara which does say that if it's going to push off 2-3 days, then you could go 7th day. We do not rely on that lamaisa. Now there's a question: what's considered the oinus? There's an interesting Chamudi Daniel Pischachua brings that oinus is only if it's oinus for the whole city. Obviously, what we're talking about is if there is a curfew or something like that for the whole city. But if it's oinus only for her, it's not considered like that because Srach Bita is not going to be saved by oinus. But most people disagree with him and say that oinus applies even if it's oinus only for her. We don't look at it. It's not bedugmas the halachas of Chesed Mishpat where we say Makas Medina is dependent on the majority of the cities and the majority of the fields getting burnt. But if it's oinus only for her, then it's oinus. She's also considered the oinus if she's sick, and whatever the reason is, if it's oinus only for her, it's also not a problem. There's no chashash of Srach Bita, and that is based on Lechem V'Simla. He disagrees with that. Now, what happens if, I'll give an example of an oinus which could happen in places which are more northern latitudes. Now here in New York, nighttime, even during the middle of the summer, is still not. You still have a good 6 hours between 6-7 hours between Tzes and Alois. You go further north, a lot north, northern Canada or Alaska, certain places in Russia, between Tzes, if there is any Tzes, between Tzes and Alois is a very short time. It could be the sun just drops below the horizon and pops right back up. You don't really have a Tzes, you don't really have an Alos. But Lamer Zogan, a woman went to mikveh, she made the preparations, or it could be that a woman traveled. She late Tvilas, Mitzvah Shabbos, and she drove Mitzvah Shabbos. It was a summer, she drove, got stuck in traffic, got to the mikveh, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, started preparations, 2:45 a.m. is Alois. You're ready going into Yom HaShmini. That is mutter, that is a oinus. She could toivel Yom HaShmini. You don't tell her drive back the 3 hours to your house and drive back 6 hours later to go to mikveh. There is no shaila of srach bita in such a scenario. She saw her mother leaving the house at night. She didn't see her mother going to mikveh during Galois. You don't have to worry about. It's also Knebaisim brings that lemaisa. Now there is a Chasam Sofer. The Chasam Sofer discusses a certain. Let's go to next sif. And sif hey, if she toiveled on the 8th day without oinus, she also the tefillah is kosher. Same thing in the 7th day. If she is toiveled during 7th day without oinus, the tefillah is also kosher. However, that's the Mechaber writes. The Shach right away points out to you over there that yesh lahachmir. You should be machmir. If she was on the 7th day, she should go back to mikveh that night. Obviously, if it's possible. Talking about a scenario where it's impossible, then the Mechaber is big enough you could rely on him. When do we have to say the schumra of the Shach? Is obviously only when you're sure that the tefillah was during daytime. What happens if a woman went to mikveh and it was bein hashmoshes, so she's not sure, she went into the water, she didn't look at the watch, but it was already starting to get dark outside, it was already after shkia, she wasn't sure if the 25 minutes or whatever it is passed until it says ekechavim or not, then it's a suffix. We're not going to do in a suffix on top of Gzeira D'Rabbanan to make her go to mikveh again, because we're going to say suffix yoim, she has to go to mikveh again. We're going to say Yom HaShvi. She'll just go home at night and be with her husband. Why am I pointing all this out? Because these are shilas you will be getting, not you may be getting, you will be getting these shilas. Say about toveling by day, and say about chatzitza, which we're going to get to soon. So I'm going to give you some examples of daytime tefillas. The Ramah points out right away, still in all, obviously when she's toveling in a way that it's mutter for her, for example, when she has a oinus, she should hide the fact that she went to mikveh from her husband. She has to hide it. He should not know that she went to mikveh until nighttime, and neither she should not be with her husband until nighttime. What does it mean she should hide it? She should not go home until nighttime. The Beis Meir and the Chasam Sofer point out that this doesn't mean that she shouldn't go to her house. She shouldn't go to her neighbor's house either. But the Pischa Zutta points out in the Chasam Sofer, he says obviously this is not talking about the 8th day, this is talking only about the 7th day. When you have a real chashash, it's going to be then you want to be machmer. But on the 8th day, if she went to make from the 8th day because of oinus or whatever it is, then obviously that you don't have to tell her that she can't be even in her neighbor's house. She can't be in her own house, but she can be in her neighbor's house. Now, when does this going to come up? If the husband, now what's the shilas come is not written in the books, but if the husband is not going to be home till after it says he's working in the city and he finishes work every day at 5 o'clock, he's not going to be home till 6 o'clock. It says was 5:30, and for whatever oinus she had to go during day, or he's landing or whatever it is, he's definitely not going to be home before it says Ekechavim, then she does not have to just hang around outside the door waiting for him to come. She could go into her house. It's not an issue. That's not Tastir Tvil also.
Huh? Does not take the wealthy, is that enough? If she's in the house?
No, because he knows he's expecting her to be Tvil. Shoyel Umeishiv has an interesting he points out that if she has a shomer with her in the house, then that's the same thing as not, because the whole chashash is the husband is going to be with her. She has a shomer in the house with her, then you don't have a shomer that works for yichud. Then you don't have that issue. Or he say also, I think he points out that if she doesn't know which house she went to, his wife went to, then she could go to anybody else's house. Or she could go to her house and be with a shomer. Huh? Kids at home. Kids at home is not dafka a shomer. this Chasam Sofer that I mentioned to you, that he says,
Why the kid? If it's the right age, it wouldn't be a shemer for the own kid.
Depends on what the parents do when the kids are up. They know they're not supposed to go into the parents' room when the parents are in the room and the door is locked. They know. Hopefully. Huh? So I sit on the couch. It's not enough. I don't know. I told a woman who went to a mikveh in a town. She went to table outside town. I told her she should just drive. Don't come into the town b'chlal. So then go into the shilas of the Chasam Sofer and everything. It's not a problem. You're anyways driving, so drive a little bit slower and then for sure. Even if going to Chasam Sofer, you don't have a problem because you even enter the village where you live. After it says, and you're 5 minutes away from the house. This Chasam Sofer that discusses it is talking about a scenario where the 8th day fell on Shabbos. And it's a sakana to toivel by night. So she would have to toivel daytime. Now, bichlal, toiveling Shabbos daytime, even when it is a oinus, according to a lot of opinions, is asur. Why? Because we're not going to combine two kulas together. Sai toiveling daytime and sai being marchik the chfifa from the tvila. But Lama is not going to... What?
Yeah, Toiveling Shabbos is
Toiveling Shabbos is bichlal shaila. But what's the reason for toiveling Shabbos? Is because so bichlal not to do. But there was an issue over there. If she wouldn't go to mikveh, she would have to go to mikveh. 8th day was Shabbos, so if she can't go to mikveh Thursday night, if she's not going to go to mikveh Friday day, then she's not going to be able to go to mikveh till Motzei Shabbos. And the one who asked the question from the Chasam Sofer pointed out, came up with an idea that because you have a whole chashash of maybe she's going to be toivel, if she's going to tell it to toivel Friday day, it's going to be toivel in Yom HaShvi, so you have a problem. So let her do hefsek tahara on the 4th day, then another hefsek tahara on the 5th day. Start counting Shiur Nakim from the 5th day. But then when she goes to mikveh on the 7th day from her counting, it's really the 8th day from her first hefsek tahara. And the Chasam Sofer says it sounds like a good idea, but it doesn't pass like it. Okay, these are the nekudas of Siman Kuf Tzadik Zayin. The shilas you're going to get is, yes, it's very common that people are going to say, it's hard for me to go to mikveh at night, when I go daytime, it's a 4-hour drive, it's a this, or that. The answer is no. Just because you're in a situation, you put yourself into a situation, doesn't mean that it's oinus. Oinus is something which is unplanned. A planned oinus is not an oinus. So, just toiveling during daytime is not an acceptable heter, and even if you do hear that certain Rabbanim will say that, it's because they follow different shittas which are not written in Shulchan Aruch, or things like that, and you're not allowed to do that. And all of you should not be passing to anybody to go during daytime unless you know that there is a real oinus. If you want to know what a real oinus is, then when there was a curfew in Mexico, so that was taka and oinus, you couldn't go to mikveh at night because you would get arrested during Corona, or so you go to mikveh 8th day. That's something else. Montreal's curfew also? They had during so 8th day you could do in a scenario of oinus, you could be mekel and 8th day. Yeah.
Let's say a Friday person comes to you and 8th day is Shabbos. They're not necessarily going to go to mikveh if you tell them to start pushing off stuff.
Well, pushing off 8th day, what? They're not going to go do. Why are people coming to you mikveh Shabbos day?
No, so are you allowed
Friday night.
To go Friday on the 7th day? Is that considered oinus if you're not?
Rabbi Olman told us that he told someone because the husband wouldn't wait till this.
That's okay. It's something else.
That's oinus, yeah.
The Rav thinks it's oinus and it's oinus. That's the specific scenarios. Can't pass like that.
Told her to hang out around the shul.
Yeah, until night. Again, but that's, she was B'yom Hashvi, when it's her taka was a big problem. There was no way around it. Even Yom Hashvi, some people are the ones who, some people understand from the Mechaber that even the Yom Hashvi you could rely on the Oinus. Even the Mechaber says not to, but some people say even the Yom Hashvi you could rely on the Oinus. Some people understand from the Ramah that even the Yom Hashvi you can't rely on the Oinus. So that's why you will see some Sfarda Shapaiskim will be more lenient when it comes to Toiveling B'Yom Hashvi in a place of Oinus or Sakana. But wholesale Toiveling B'Yom Hashvi doesn't apply. Okay, we're going to move on to Siman Kuf Tzadik Ches. I am not going to be discussing the specifics. I'm going to be giving you a general overview of all the concepts that you will be coming across in Siman Kuf Tzadik Ches. And Kuf Tzadik Ches is the dinim of Chatzitza. You will be getting a lot of shilas on it, so just pay attention. First nakud that you have to know is called makpid. First category is makpid. Makpid means something that it bothers you enough that you would want to take it off. There's a discussion whether makpid applies to Reiv Nashim in this scenario, Reiv Nashim Bechlal, or if this woman specifically is not makpid, could she at least b'diavad rely on it if she already went to mikvah on something that she's not makpid, even if Reiv Olam is makpid. Yeah, and that is a discussion that's from the simple Pshat HaShulchan Aruch, it's mashma that you follow based on Reiv Nashim and you don't care what this woman, if this woman is not makpid on it, you still aser, still it's a chatzitza. That's why I pointed out that the Gulas Ilias takes a whole different mahalach, and it's good to have it in the back of your mind when somebody calls you and it's a b'diavad. So makpid means you makpid lahasiroi, makpid to remove it from you. Whether it's you want to take it off today, and take it off next week, you take it off every other week. Something which bothers the person during the tefillah, something which a person wants to remove, even if it's not doesn't want to remove it now, but wants to remove it later. And but if something which is the majority of people are not makpid, then it's not a problem. Why? Because the logic is it becomes bottled to your body. The Torah says, "Chatzkol b'sarei," can't have anything which is chaytzitz. Something which is blocking your kol b'sarei from the water is a chatzitza. So therefore, if you have something which you're not makpid on, and everybody's not, a majority of people are not makpid on, then it becomes bottled to the body, and it's no longer considered a chatzitza. The makpida that the Gemara is talking about is obviously talking about machmas, something which is bothering her. That's when she wants to remove it. Now, if somebody is makpid not to remove it, she dafka wants it to stay there, but she's going to remove the current one that's there. For example, when you had temporary fillings in the teeth, which then get replaced with permanent fillings. Temporary fillings are something which is, you want the filling to stay there, you don't want to have a tooth without a filling, but this temporary filling you're going to take off and you're going to put a new filling into it in a few weeks, or whenever the time is going to be. In that scenario, a lot of places we're going to say it's not considered a chatzitza, because even though she's not interested, she's going to remove this filling, but the idea of a filling in her tooth, she's makpid to leave it there. So that's not considered a problem. Same thing with, again, if you have dissolvable stitches, yeah, it's an example of something which you're makpid that it should stay there. Everybody's makpid that it should stay there. Nobody wants the dissolvable stitches to be taken out before. The whole point is they should stay there until you're healed, and then they dissolve by themselves. So it's also not considered, l'chayra, it's not considered a chatzitza. Something which a person is going to makpid to remove for the purpose that it shouldn't get ruined is considered a chatzitza. If people have rings on their hands, that is the classical chatzitza. Even though a woman will always have a ring on her hand, she will take them off for the purpose of chatzitza. She'll take them off when she does dough. She doesn't want pieces of dough getting stuck in between the diamond and the ring, or in the little places. It's hard to get rid of afterwards. Therefore, that is considered also a chatzitza. Now, if something that she's not allowed to remove. For medical reasons, a specific amount of time. It goes into the whole big machlekes, which we're going to get to down the line. When is it considered a chatzitza? Over here she's makpid not to remove it. But at the same time, she really wants to get rid of it. If there has a bandage, which a doctor says has to stay on your body for 2 weeks. So yes, the doctor says make sure that no waterproof thing stays on you for 2 weeks. It becomes a chatzitza. Why? She's makpid not to remove it now. Makpida. But at the same time, the definition of makpid is she wants to get rid of it. She wants to get rid of it. Not today, but in 2 weeks. She's hoping maybe the doctor will even tell her that she can take it off 4 days early if it healed faster. So that is considered makpida lahasira, even though right now when she's going to mikveh, she's makpida not to be, when she should have been going to mikveh, she's makpida not to remove it. Now comes the thing the other way around. She's makpid not to remove it for a long time. As long as this is there, she's makpid not to remove it. The classical example, everybody's going to be asked the shilas. Woman has a manicure. If a manicure was just done, Kala, for example, got their manicure done or whatever it is, and she's perfect. Manicure, just spent an hour, 2 hours, and she's going to mikveh, and she does not want to remove it. It's already based on the Rashba that you could be mekel, because she's makpid not to remove it. But only if she wants to keep it, it should stay like this even after the tefillah. Certain forms of body rings, which are placed in different parts of the body, and they are made to remain there. You have them on top of the eyes, you have them in other places in the body, which are made to stay there. They're not like the earrings, which are made to be taken off. Those are, or even some other things people put in their ears, which different ways, which also stay there, even though it's something which stays there. She's makpid not to remove it. You have to go to some kind of surgery to get it out. You can't just remove it by yourself. Now, what happens when you define roiv noshim, that we said in Shulchan Aruch says roiv noshim are makpidos, to remove it, it's considered aser. It's considered a chatzitza. We don't look at the majority of the women in the world. We look at the majority of the women who have this thing. Because let's say if you don't, when it comes to let's say if somebody has some kind of in their teeth something, and the majority, not everybody has that thing in their teeth, crowns or whatever, not everybody has them, and you're going to say makpid lahasira, the majority of women maybe they don't know what crowns are, but if the majority of women with crowns obviously want the crowns to stay in their teeth, nobody wants a crown to come off the teeth, so that's considered makpid to stay there, or at least not makpid to remove it. When something is a sakana, and a doctor says it's a sakana, there are places where you could be mekel, we will be going through it, but only if the sakana is a permanent sakana, if she takes it off, not if it's a sakana only when toiveling. If a person has a ear infection which needs to have the ear completely dry from water, or they have something in the rechem, they put something over there for that reason, and the only issue would be that it has to stay there when she goes into water. She has to protect it only from water, but not from anything else. Means the sakana is only due to the water. That is not considered that's still considered a chatzitza. So what's the solution for it? So you have, like I think I mentioned to people over here, there are people, there's certain books who say you're going to put fish oil or something made from fish. That's min hayam, zayin chaytzitz. We could rely on it. Every case for itself. We will discuss it when we get to the places in Shulchan Aruch. We'll make a few more shiurim on this topic. The discussions, which are the most heavy discussions in Shulchan Aruch, revolve around what's considered beis hasadim. When you have chasisis in your teeth, what's chasisis in your hair, and the things that are attached to the hair extensions, v'chulu, we will go. What's considered a mokim below, or water doesn't go into. We will discuss each one of those things when we will when we will get to it. Another very important thing to remember is you have to remember that every chatzitza shaila is divided into it's not only about the woman and about the kind of chatzitza, is when is she asking you the shaila. Shaila that's asked when she's in the mikveh has a different answer than the shaila that's asked after she came back home. Once she came back home, very different, certain shilas of chatzitza after she's back home, which is already the category of lonesome baila, then it will be very different to send a woman back to mikveh from the house than to when a woman is in the mikveh and she calls with such a shaila. Once there's an interesting, if you will see, whoever certain mikvahs have, a lot of mikvahs have on the way out from the mikveh, they give you to eat taffies or chocolates which get stuck, or nutty chews which get stuck to the teeth, and the nutty chews have a chazaka that will be in your teeth until the next time you go to mikveh because it's so hard to get rid of. And the idea is that when she'll get home, she'll find something in her teeth. The tail in the nutty chews and not in the. I say for sure it happened after the tefillah. What I ate a nutty chew, so obviously something got stuck in her teeth, and it's not a chatzitza. Rather than if she is in the mikveh before she ate the nutty chew, then you can't be toilet the chatzitza in the teeth and the nutty chew. But afterwards you could be toilet. That is one of the reasons. But even if she didn't eat the nutty chew, still ways to be toilet after you get home. We say that also when it comes to shilas of sfeikus, if a suffix, if a woman went to mikveh, she always takes off her her earrings before going into the water, and she doesn't remember if she took off her earrings when she went into the mikveh this time, but every other time she remembers to take them off. Whatever, maybe the mikveh lady, there was no mikveh lady over there, whatever the reason is. I'm saying, well, if there is something on her, she doesn't know. If it becomes a suffix, it's also a difference what kind of chatzitza it is. Who is makpid, if you're not makpid, and if you're home already or you are not home. I did post on the group an interesting thing that the Chachma Sadim writes in Bin Asadim that when it comes to shilas of maris, you could paskin for yourself. When it comes to shilas of Tevila, you cannot paskin for yourself, because by shilah of maris, it's only a suffix, it's not really a dam tamid. By a shilah of Tevila, she is for sure chazik esura, so a husband can't be paisik for her, but a lot of people disagree with him, and they hold that even a shilah of Tevila, you could be paisik for your wife.
Why is maris less of a chazik?
Not as chazik esura. Huh? Why is no? She's not already doing Shiva Nikiyim. She's half Sikmatara already. She's already one step closer. She's by Tvila, she's for sure Tame and she's becoming tired. Let's say if it's a chayri, you'll bring it to somebody else. But Pile today we say paskin, husband can paskin everything if he knows what he's talking about. But that's mitzal tzad sofik that a lot of husbands don't know what they're talking about. So it's not such a good idea to have. This is sveke. The trade rabbanon. Okay, yeah. So that's what it's going to be. There will be the first. I'll call it Al Seder Shir and Kuf Tzadik Ches is going to be in Mitzvah Hashem on Tuesday. This Tuesday at 1:15. I will try to have another shir on Thursday also. On continuing in Kuf Tzadik Ches, and then try to get another few shiurim to be able to finish this Kuf Tzadik Ches, Kuf Tzadik Tes, and be finished with Hilchas Chatzitza and at least part of Hilchas Tvila by the time we're done Kolel for this year. Tzlach Rabbi.